Hello everyone and welcome back to a brand new day of Road to TCG Worlds 2017, where this week we are doing our Sun and Moon special, so daily videos with the new Sun and Moon cards. As you can see, this is a pretty varied deck, if you will. We are combining Umbreon and Espeon, and I wanted to ask you guys a question first. Or rather, first of all, like the video if you can, to support the series, to support the daily content. But here's the question: do you guys prefer the rainbow rare art? Do you guys prefer the full arts? Or do you guys prefer the regular art GXs? Because looking at the thumbnails, I feel like the regular art GXs look more attractive. Obviously the rainbow rares are the highest rarity and they might be more attractive to some people, but like just purely aesthetics, whatever the word, for the videos, which one do you prefer? If there's a big preference for any sort of art, I will use that. But anyways, let's move on to analyzing this Eeveelutions Zoroark deck. Okay, so first off, we have 4 Eevee. This is the new Sun and Moon Eevee. It does have the Energy Evolution ability, which is a reprint of sorts from the Furious Fists, I believe, Eevee. There might have been an older one, something like that. But whenever you attach a basic energy from your hand to the Eevee, you get to search your deck for an evolution and place it on Eevee. So it doesn't matter if it's your first turn of the game, you get to avoid the turn 1 evolution rule. Or if it's the first turn that you've played Eevee down, rather, not just in your first turn of the game. So pretty cool ability right there. 60 HP, nothing too impactful. 2 retreat gust is actually not great. You'd expect to have a 1 retreat gust, but hey, it's not that big a deal. And then our main attackers of the deck are the 2 Umbreon GX, which for a stage 1 200 HP now seems to be the norm. It is a lot of HP, like between 200 and I believe Lurantis has 210 maybe. So pretty hefty amount, but that's gonna be the new standard. Strafe deals 30 damage and you may switch Umbreon with one of your benched Pokemon. That's a strategy that has been in place for quite a while. Attacking and running back to something has been very successful in the past, most recently Donphan kind of decks. But, actually it's usually Donphan, isn't it? Anyways, right now, with the high HPs and everything, 30 damage probably doesn't cut it. If it dealt 50 or something like that, then we'd be talking about something completely different. But for now, 30 damage, it'll probably be used in certain situations where you need to protect Umbreon or something, but it's not gonna be your most used attack. Then we have Shadow Bullet, which is one of the most hyped attacks as well from this set. 90 damage plus 30 damage to one of your opponent's benched Pokemon. Pretty decent damage haul for the cost. Yesterday we featured Decidueye, and that card dealt for pretty much the same cost, except with a grass instead of a darkness. It only dealt 90, so now you get that extra 30 damage to your opponent's bench, and placing correctly that 30 damage, like trying to think ahead of where you need to place the damage, what are your win conditions. That extra 30 damage increase or gives this card an extra skill factor, which I really like. And then we have the GX attack, which is Dark Call GX, where you get to discard 2 energy from your opponent's Pokemon. You can discard 2 TCs, you can discard 2 basic energies, or you can discard any combination of those 2. Pretty useful attack. It allows you to set your opponent back 2 turns, which is obviously great. There are abilities or cards that offset that, such as Max Elixir, but a well-timed Dark Call GX attack can be game-changing. So I really like having that option, and the attack cost is not that big a deal. A single darkness would make it better, but you will usually have enough energy to use Shadow Bullet, so it really won't be a problem to cover the Dark Call GX attack. It's not that big a deal. To retreat gust, pretty standard. Fighting type weakness, which is great, although Passimian does manage a one-hit KO on the Umbreon GXs without even a Fighting Fury belt, and Psyguard could pose a threat, and Psychic Resistance is always great. Then, my deck apparently contains more than 60 cards, so I did not intend to add an Umbreon. It's only a 2-2. Then we have Espeon GX. Once again, 200 HP. Psybeam, I think this attack is a little bit better. 30 and Confusion. So, Confusion is essentially like a sleep flip, except better, because instead of, like, your opponent still has to flip, you know? Which is the equivalent of them flipping to wake up. The difference is, sure, they can retreat, whereas if your active Pokemon is asleep, they can't. But the reward for the Confusion damage makes this so much worth it. So a single energy for 30 damage and Confusion, I would say, is pretty okay. And then Psychic. Now, a lot of people really like Umbreon. I really like Umbreon, but I feel like eventually Espeon will overtake Umbreon in usefulness as we see more fighting types coming into play, and as we see Mega Mewtwo come back like really strongly into the scene. Psychic dealing 60 damage plus 30 for the amount of energy attached to your opponent's active Pokemon. It kind of works like Mega Mewtwo's attack, doesn't really. But the thing here is it does apply weakness. So mirror matches, Espeon versus Espeon, will be very technical. You get a good answer to Mewtwo as they need 4 energy. If you have 3, they need 4 energy to 1-hit KO your Espeon, whereas you only need 3 and they only need to have 2 energy for you to be able to 1-hit KO them, so that's pretty good. And then the attack, the GX attack, the Divide GX, is really good. Placing 10 damage counters on your opponent's Pokemon in any way you like, once again, allows for a lot of room for skill-based decisions, where you get to try and picture the future scenario. There's 2 things that are gonna happen. You can set up future KOs through that damage, like ensure you will be able to knock out some of your opponent's Pokemon in order to win the game, or you can essentially secure a game by being able to deal damage wherever the damaged Pokemon is on the bench or in the active slot or whatever. So it has both of those benefits, which is obviously really good. 1 retreat gust is very nice, and the Psychic weakness is interesting for the mirror matches. Not too relevant for Mewtwo, but it's what you would expect off of a Psychic type Pokemon. No resistance, which sucks, but Psychic types are not characteristically known for their resistances. And then we have the support combo of Jolteon, Vaporeon, and Flareon. Each of these allow you to turn either Umbreon or Espeon or even Zoroark into their respective types. So being able to 1-hit KO Rayquaza if you have Jolteon, being able to 1-hit KO Yveltal if you have Jolteon, being able to 1-hit KO Volcanion if you have Vaporeon, being able to 1-hit KO Lurantis and Decidueye and Scizor if you have Flareon. Each and every one of those has their utility. In an ideal world, you would have space for 2 of each. That would be like an ideal, absolutely ideal world. You would have 2 of each, but since space is an issue, you can only afford to run 1, at least for now. Maybe the metagame will trend towards some weakness where you can maybe justify playing 2 of 1 evolution, or maybe even dropping 1 evolution. But for now, and in order to have a well-rounded deck, you can definitely expect to, or rather you definitely want to run all 3, so you have the options to use all 3. Then we have the Zoroark supporting lineup. We have 2 Zoroark, which also turn into different types. Punishes your opponent for playing a lot of bench Pokemon, such as a Decidueye GX deck, such as Solgaleo or Lunala decks, which obviously always have a big bench, Volcanion as well. So Zoroark seems pretty good in the format right now. And I'm using 1 Zoroark BREAK, which doesn't get the benefit of turning into different types, but like there might be some weird instances where Foul Play could actually copy a GX attack, which would be great, as you have the option to use your opponent's GX attacks against them, and for a probably much lower cost. So those are the attackers of the deck. We also have 2 Shaman in order to support our draw, and for supporters and item cards we have the what I will call the new standard for me for now. 4 Sycamore, 2 N, 2 Lysander, and the 1 Kukui, which I've been actually taking a good advantage of so far in all the games I've been playing with the new decks. 2 Parallel CD, not the greatest stadium. I could see myself playing the one that adds extra damage to dark type Pokemon. That might be a better play, but for now I do like Parallel CD, although it kind of goes against Zoroark's idea. Zoroark's not always going to be the one Pokemon to threaten your opponent with. 2 experience share, because I believe since we don't run max elixir, you do need some sort of way to conserve energy, and I could be playing Assault Vest, I could be playing Bursting Balloons, but experience share felt better in terms of consistency or guaranteeing games. 4 Verseeker, 4 Ultra Ball, 3 Trainer's Mail, once again pretty standard, and we have 3 Level Ball. Now, in this case, unlike yesterday, there's absolutely no argument whatsoever to use Nest Ball. Why? Because Level Ball can actually find you Vaporeon, can actually find you Jolteon, or Flareon, apart from the Eevees and Zoruas. Now, if I were using Nest Ball in those spaces, I would only be able to find Eevee, Zorua, and of course Shaman, which I would never do. So Level Ball is 100% strictly better in this scenario. 1 Super Rod to potentially get some energy back. Our energy distribution is 4 DCE, 5 Darkness, and 3 Psychic. We do have a 2-2 split between Umbreon and Espeon, but more Darkness allows us to have the option of Zoroark BREAK, which is great, and the 1 Floatstone, which combines with Zoroark's ability. So that's the deck. Let's give it a run over on the versus ladder. I actually did not change anything, so let's just get into it. And as you can see, the next few decks, and I still need to build the others for the week, but a few of the upcoming decks are the Sun and Moon Lurantis Vileplume and Lurantis Eeveelutions combination. So you can look forward to that in the rest of the week, where we will have daily Sun and Moon videos. Now it looks like we're up against a pure Darkness type deck. We do get to go first, which is awesome. There's only 2 bad starters in the deck. Our hand is not great, but at least we get the turn 1 Umbreon. We make our deck a little bit thinner as well. Some sort of Ultra Ball top deck, there we go. Would actually be pretty nice. And what I could do here is I'm gonna Ultra Ball and discard the Umbreon and the Psychic Energy, and I'm gonna search for a Shaman, okay? And I'm gonna check what's priced. The other Umbreon isn't priced, 1 Espeon is priced. Flareon and Jolteon, so Vaporeon is priced, but I don't think, seeing an opposing Eevee, I generally don't think Vaporeon is gonna matter unless my opponent misplays and evolves. Oh no, never mind, because the weakness doesn't change. Never mind. I'm just gonna go ahead and grab Shaman here. No Shaman are priced. 1 Parallel CD as well, so Espeon, Vaporeon, Parallel CD. Lysander we have in our hand. 1 Sycamore, that's 4. 2 DCE, that's not good to see. And yeah, that's our 6 prizes. The 6 DCE is actually not great to see in our prize cards, but anyways, we do get to evolve first, but then my opponent will be able to attack me first. So unless we do find the energy, it's gonna be a bit it's gonna be a wild ride here, because 2 DC's prize definitely doesn't help our case, and they're going to be super valuable. And as you can see, we actually don't find either any draw or our DCE. So I'm gonna play the stadium to possibly limit my opponent's options. We do know my opponent is playing an Umbreon deck, based on the fact that in the previous screen we only saw darkness. So this might be Veltal Umbreon, this might be Darkrai Umbreon. Umbreon even has hammers, which is really annoying. Really annoying. Ugh. I hate this kind of, like, if my opponent whiffs a supporter, it's gonna be 100% because he's using those things. Because you sacrifice consistency to use those things. In decks such as this one, you're limiting your options, which makes absolutely no sense to me. But anyways, he does use a Sycamore, discards a Verseeker, an Energy, and an Umbreon GX. You do get to choose not to retreat with Strafe, which is okay, I guess. I would really like to top deck a TCE or a supporter. And wow, my opponent actually has Bursting Balloon. And okay, I might actually end up confusing my opponent. Okay, so he benches the Shaman, which I am okay with, because now I have a Lysander target. And he chooses to switch out, surprisingly. So if he's planning, that made no sense. Unless, yeah, it says you may switch, you don't have to switch. So this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go into Espeon so that I can confuse my opponent. If he's planning on using Sky Return, then he has to flip for it. And I don't want to confuse Umbreon just yet. And the 30 damage leaves Shaman in a potential Umbreon GX attack range in the future, so that's good. But my opponent has the escape rope immediately. So I guess I have to go Umbreon here. Any damage on the Umbreon is great, so that eventually Espeon can KO the Umbreon. But I mean, I could go after the Shaman once again. Oh, there we go. Thank you, opponent. Thank you. I mean, it's pretty bad that off of a Shaman for 4 we didn't get anything going, and we still don't have anything going, actually. That's pretty bad. I'm not gonna lie. That's pretty bad. Okay. My opponent does go for the Dark Cold GX attack, which was what I was planning on doing. Let's see if this can find me. Okay, so I do get an N. Yeah, I have to go for the N. Doesn't look though like my opponent is going to play Zoroark, so I can fill up my bench without any issues. Do I attach to the bench EV? Do I attach to the active? I'm not gonna attack though. Definitely not gonna attack into the Bursting Balloon. So I might as well try to clean up my deck a little bit. I'm counting on Zoroark in order to retreat my Umbreon eventually. And I make my deck, I guess, 1 card thinner so that we stop dead drawing off of this N. And okay. So we only find the Verseeker, which is okay, I guess. I'll attach the experience share to the Espeon, and I will pass for now. We're not in a great position here. I really need to find a Zoroark this upcoming turn. Like really. 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 Man, this is a bad position to be in. Okay, so my opponent does attach a TCE. And will Lysander KO a Zorua. So maybe I give up on the Zoroark option now. Because yes, he is going after the Zoroark, which I understand him doing so. So now it's up to me to put more pressure. I just need... There we go. So off of the Ultra Ball, I can find the Zoroark to punish my opponent, hopefully. I'm gonna get rid of the Darkness and the Shaman. I'm gonna search for the Zoroark. Maybe getting rid of the Darkness was not a great idea. I only have 2 more Darkness energy left. And 2 Psychic. Okay, so I will end. And we finally see a Sycamore there. We also see an Ultra Ball which can find me the Zoroark BREAK. The experience share I can attach to the other Umbreon GX, which is nice. And I could Dark Hole here. I could definitely Dark Hole to try and set him back, but that's only his first TCE, so odds of him having more TCEs are pretty high, so I'd rather just put pressure and deal more damage. I guess onto the Eevee, because if he doesn't evolve, I get a KO. I also thought about pressuring the Shaman, but there's always a chance that I might end up playing a parallel CD, perhaps. I don't know. It's a difficult call. Definitely a difficult call. That Darkness energy though is huge, the one I have in my hand. And if I top deck an energy, I probably won't be able to... use the Sycamore because I'm running low on energy. With 2 TC priced, I'm actually running frighteningly low on energy. Man. So my opponent chooses to dead draw instead of dealing damage. He does use Energy Evolution, but he whiffs. Wow, he actually whiffs. And he has the other balloon, man. This is so annoying. I mean, between the 2 priced energy and the bursting balloons and the what? Man, this is bad. This is actually bad. Okay, I get a Versus Seeker, which doesn't help me in any way or form. I'm gonna go ahead and search for the Zoroark BREAK here. That way I can copy. See, I could... Maybe I should have... used Dark Hole the previous turn. Probably should have used Dark Hole. Now, the Level Ball can find me other Pokemon, but I don't really need the other Pokemon. So I'm just gonna grab it so I can discard it. Like, there's literally no Pokemon I can use at this point, but I also don't want to discard any of the other cards. So I'm gonna use Stand-In. And I can't not attack here. You know, I definitely can't not attack. And I will KO the other Eevee, which is like the threat, I guess. And now Umbreon GX has 20 HP left. I do find my other Espeon. But unless my opponent ends me, I have the Lysander to KO it wherever it decides to go. and if he decides to not go anywhere, I'll be good because I'll get the KO. I mean, in an ideal world, I would have another DCE in order to KO the Umbreon. He doesn't. Man, imagine a scenario where I had a DCE and I could Lysander KO the Eevee and the Umbreon GX. That would be amazing. Yes, he does attach a DCE instead. Chooses to discard the two Shamans. Makes sense to do that play. Definitely makes sense. I do get to keep the energy though, which is nice. Unless he, yeah, I was gonna say, he decides to take a KO with Strafe, which prevents my experience share from activating, which is very annoying. That is very, very annoying. He did choose to promote the Yveltal though, so maybe I can use this to my advantage. He has played so far 2 escape ropes. Now I need to get rid of the Umbreon GX, I think. I definitely need to get rid of the Umbreon GX. And yeah, I'm gonna use this Umbreon to do so, I think. Now I'm having second thoughts. Okay, I do top deck a Floatstone, which I do like. I'm gonna attach the Darkness. I will Lysander. There's no way I don't KO this Umbreon GX this turn. Especially because 2 prizes actually does mean 2 prizes does mean that see, I could just bench and evolve Espeon, but I don't know if that's a good play. I guess it is. And I KO here and promote this Umbreon. Hopefully I get a DCE though. I really, really, really need a DCE. Okay, there's one DCE and there's one Parallel CD. Parallel CD doesn't really matter, but the DCE is actually pretty important. I feel like maybe Espeon GX's attack will end up being crucial in these next few turns. Who does he promote? If he doesn't immediately promote Eevee, then he might not have a way to get Umbreon into play. And yeah, these mirror matches are very interesting. And the other thing I can do is use Darko GX in order to set him back 2 turns, which is obviously great. That would probably be a really good idea. I do lose my DCE, but my deck is thin enough where I feel like I have a good chance of recovering off of this 3-card end. I do find a Sycamore, a Zorua, which is useless, and a DCE. And he does go after the Eevee, which I don't really mind too much. I find Kukui, which is actually huge. Getting Kukui here is actually huge, because the 20 extra damage is going to make a difference. It's certainly going to make a difference. I get to 2-hit KO the Umbreon now. I mean, I could have also used Darkhold GX, but I think I'm better off going on the offensive, especially putting pressure on the bench Eevee. If he doesn't bench Eevee, I win, pretty much. As long as I'm able to power up another attacker. But yeah, there's absolutely no way he can set back my Umbreon other than 2 more crushing hammers. He does go for a Delinquent. The delinquent means I no longer have the Versus Seeker win condition. I mean, I could keep the Trainer's Mail. My deck is relatively low that I might decide to keep the Trainer's Mail. What to do though? What to do? I mean, the Trainer's Mail means I win next turn. The Sycamore guarantees that I put on more pressure. I'm gonna play it safe. I'm gonna get rid of those two. Or those three, rather. One card in hand, which is the Sycamore. Him KOing the EV doesn't matter at all though. And using the delinquent means he didn't use N, he didn't use Lysander, and he's not using any draw in order to try and find another Umbreon. So if he just attacks here, I win. Can he find the Umbreon GX off of that one card Instruct? Umbreon's not using Shaman. We have to take that into... Oh no, he is. Never mind. He discarded them. Okay, so we win. We deal 90, 30, and we KO the Umbreon and the EV, and we win. So that turn where I chose not to put the damage on Shaman, but rather on the EV, that was the key. Okay, that was the key to our success. Now, if I was in any real danger, I might have used Darkhold GX this turn, which would have been pretty important to set him back 2 turns. If he had Lysander, something like the EV, and KO'd it, he still would have needed to take 2 more prize cards. So even though it felt close, I feel like we were always very clear on what our win conditions were. So thankfully my opponent flipped tails on both of the early hammers, but it's not really a disruptive deck, the one he was running. So I don't know, combining random disruptive cards, he might have only been running 2 Crushing Hammers and 1 Team Flare Grunt, but combining random disruptive cards just for the sake of it, I don't know, it doesn't make too much sense to me, at least. But I know people do like it, so I don't know. Okay, so we do get to go first once again, pretty cool. We are up against a fighting type deck, so this might cause some trouble. And yeah, guys, you tell me what you want to see for the rainbow rares or full arts or regular GX art. I would really like to know your opinion, because in the end the videos are for you guys. I personally don't mind. In real life I only use the in regular life I only use the regular arts, because I don't like spending too much money on the cards, or rather I can't afford to spend too much money on the cards. Wow. That's going to be an absolutely killer Sycamore, because we lose our Super Art and we lose an Espeon, which is going to be key, but I can't not use Sycamore. Oh, man. And we will probably end up losing the Zorua anyways. Wow. This is pretty bad, guys. Pretty bad, I'm not gonna lie. We are not in any sort of great position here. Verse Seeker, I definitely don't want to grab that. We are in a terrible position. Man, those early hands, they're just killing me. We are relying on our opponents being generous and using N in order to get ourselves into the games. Now, do I go for Shaman? I guess I do. Espeon is going to have to be like a god. Like a serious god. But yeah, I mean, is it even worth maybe retreating into Shaman? He can still KO the Shaman. This is horrible. Town map. Okay, so town map. This is most likely a Passimian deck. No Passimians are priced. There's a Passimian. So yeah, we are in a ton of trouble. Like, best case scenario, we managed to take 2 consecutive KOs with Espeon on my opponent's Pokemon, but that's pretty much it. That's gonna be pretty much it. Passimian now is 150 HP, not that huge, unless my opponent whiffs the DC here, which is possible. It's definitely possible, but very unlikely. Well, I don't know. We'll see. 1 Psychic Energy is priced though, so there's no guarantee we'll even be able to find the Espeon. And my opponent does choose to retreat. He does find the DCE, so we won't even be able to KO the Eevee at this point in time. Like, our best course of action is Energy Evolution and dealing 30 damage and retreating into the Shaman. That's pretty bad. That's generally pretty bad. I mean, Passimian can't one-hit KO Shaman, that's true. But Mew can. Mew most certainly can. And we lost the DCE for nothing. We actually lost the DCE for nothing. Okay, off of the level ball, I'm gonna find more Eevees, because why not? If I had 2 Espeon and my Super Rod, I'd feel decently comfortable. Decently. Like, very big question marks. But that first turn Sycamore was just a huge blow to our hopes and dreams, guys. Just an absolute huge blow to our hopes and dreams. Okay, I'm going to go for my Umbreon GX, and I'm gonna deal a marvelous 30 damage to the Passimian. Absolutely marvelous 30 damage. There's a chance my opponent does have Buddy Rescue. There's actually that chance, which could be okay, I guess. I'm gonna attach the Floatstone to Zorua. I'm gonna attach the Experience Shares to 2 Eevees, and see, what do I promote then? Maybe I should have kept the DCE. Do I promote Shaman? Hoping? I mean the Floatstone, sorry, not the DCE. Well, I guess I can use Zoroark, so I might as well. I'm gonna promote Shaman, that way he loses a DCE retreating. 10 plus, yeah, 100, 110 minus resistance, yeah. So he loses a DCE to retreat into Mew, or he simply doesn't KO the Shaman. Either way, I come out on top in that exchange. Here's the 4th Passimian. Or he can already have the Lysender and just run us over with, and we have no end to punish him. Absolutely no end to punish him. Okay. So team play. I get to keep the energy, which really won't make any difference at all. I'm playing this out, guys, so you can see the matchup, but it's obviously not a good matchup. It most certainly is not a good matchup. I guess use the GX attack, maybe. I mean, Zoroark can also get a KO here. Zoroark can get a KO on this Passimian as well, so maybe that's the best play. I'm gonna try to run my opponent out of energy, maybe, and try to seal it off with a late game N. I guess that's my best course of action, and by late game N I mean next turn. So yeah, that's the plan, guys. Okay, so I do get that. Oh, I actually shouldn't have done that. I can't believe I don't have a... How do I not have an N? Oh, well, one N is prized and the other is in the last 10 cards of my deck. I guess I will evolve the Eevee into Vaporeon, doesn't really matter. And I will Shaman here. I need the N for next turn. That's just not gonna happen today. It's just absolutely not going to happen. Well, there's our prize card, okay. So he promotes Mew, which makes sense. But there's a revive, so no Buddy Rescue, revive instead. Makes sense, I guess. He will special charge, putting the one discarded energy back. And we'll simply retreat into the Passimian. We'll bench another Mew. And yeah, here's the issue, guys. Here's a really, really big issue. My ability doesn't really come into play. I have the wrong energy on the Espeon. So I need him to dead draw really, really badly. I guess the confusion matters. I guess the confusion does matter. Maybe? I don't know. I might have to use my GX attack in order to KO both Mews. That might be my GX attack. But Psybeam, confusing, is actually awesome. If we get a flip our way, that would be absolutely huge. And my opponent has 3 cards. He decides to retreat. And he got the DC off of the end. So any chance we had, I mean, what are you gonna do? Seriously, what are you gonna do? Oh well. So yeah, only 2 matches for today. The first one was really intense, I would say. The second one was obviously not that close at all, but that is one of the weaknesses of the deck. Maybe instead of using Zoroark, you could do something different to partner the deck with. Maybe focusing on Espeon is better than focusing on Umbreon. Like, there's a ton of choices you can do with the deck. So give it a try. The deck list, of course, will be in the description down below. You can try out different options, but you can use this as a base if you want. And like I said, the metagame will say, like, based on the fact that Umbreon is hyped and Darkrai EX is getting a lot of hype off of its recent regionals win, then maybe decks like Passimian and decks like Psyguard will make it into the top tables, and therefore you want to use Espeon GX somehow, although Mew is an answer to the Espeon, so I don't know, it's a delicate balance right there. There's of course another 10 different viable decks out there, so yeah, you really need to find your balance. That deck loses to Greninja big time. I think it probably struggles against Lurantis GX, especially Lurantis Vileplume. It would definitely struggle against Scissor, removing the energy and stuff like that. I don't know. Maybe this deck needs some sort of enhanced hammer support in order to try and counteract the plays your opponent has. Something weird like that. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you leave a like on the video to support the channel. Subscribe if you haven't yet for more daily content. And I will see you guys tomorrow for more Sun and Moon action. Thank you guys, and bye-bye.